we invite some of our contributing authors to speak. There was a statement written by one of the panelists in a previous session that I want to share. This event and its organizers want to acknowledge that we're gathering during an active genocide taking place in Gaza, and that the current violence in Palestine is a continuation of decades of colonial violence under Israeli apartheid. So we stand in solidarity with victims of genocide in Sudan and Congo, and with indigenous peoples on whose ancestral homelands this conference is being held, including the Ramaytush Ohlone people, who stand firmly against anti-blackness and recognize that police violence and all white supremacist violence must be named and opposed. These forms of violence, along with transphobic violence being legislated in California and other states, endanger the lives of trans, queer, gender non-conforming, and non-binary people. And therefore, as we move forward in this event, we want to underscore that none of us are free until all of us are free, and that all anti-racist liberationist and decolonial struggles are intertwined. So I think it's really important to reaffirm that statement, just because the spirit of this project that we're here to talk about today is giving voices and platforms to stories that are swept under the rug or not heard, and it's okay to talk about the things that are uncomfortable to talk about. So with that, I want to invite each of our panelists to introduce themselves, read their letter, and then talk about the contents behind their letter. So we'll start with Jess. Go ahead and introduce yourself, your pronouns if you wish, and then go ahead and read your letter.
Okay. So hi everybody, my name is Jessica Afable. I am from the Central Valley. First of all, I just want to say thank you for having me. I love this city, I love the people here. Made so many memories, and there's no better place to be than in the library, places I love more than being around books and good people. So thank you for having me. I go by she, her, hers. I am second generation Filipino American. My mom came from an Ilocano background and my dad from Tagalog background. So when other Filipino nurses ask me oh, do you speak Tagalog? I'm like, I'll start counting in Tagalog and then start counting in Ilocano. So I just no, just English. But I understand, but really I don't.
True story.
And just many, or at least for me, my story, since my parents are immigrants, writing has always been very personal to me, and being intentional with your words. So for me, as I'm learning English as a young folk, my parents were also learning English. So whenever we would talk to one another, my parents would mouth the words that I'm saying, because we have to slow down. They have to look at their dictionary to figure out what I'm saying and what they can say back. So always thought that writing and words were always so important. So once again, thank you for having me. Thank you for having all of us to share our stories. And yeah, let me read a bit from my excerpt. So for me, my story or letter is called Just Like You. And I will start at a point where I think I'll be relevant. For me, I wrote mine kind of in chronological order from when I was a young kid to a grown adult. So it goes, as you come of age, you'll date a good amount of guys, and the hard part isn't the breakups. It'll be everything leading up to them. It's changing, then losing yourself to be the perfect girl they want. In the back of your mind, you'll count how long it'll take for you to keep a good guy in your life. But when feelings intensify, you ghost them like you ghost your real feelings and say, I'm sure you're better off without me. You'll ultimately feel broken and guilty for deceiving them and yourself for being a pretty shallow person. Not only does this play out terribly for your self-worth as a girl who feels like she's only meant for the male fantasy, but as an overall growing human. Then one day you'll learn to thank the last guy you dated. He was actually the first one, to question your queerness. He was right about you being head over heels for a girl he thought you liked. You'll face this meaningful conversation alone in your dorm room one day, or when you realize that not everyone thinks the Victoria's Secret fashion show is equivalent to the Super Bowl. In your 20s, you'll constantly struggle with how to live life as a queer Christian, and being within those two communities that don't always see things queerly. You'll tend to feel like a closeted queer and a closeted Christian, never truly enough for either communities. Because of this, you'll feel lonely and find it hard to be resilient. For a girl who prays with open hands, you'll often catch yourself walking through the world with fists up or hands up in days when fear feels so synonymous with gravity, and you'll agree with the saying, "I'm scared to death." You believe in the power of words, even the hurtful ones, but bravery will redirect your understanding of where and how you need to grow. You'll be told that self-care isn't just about pampering oneself. It also includes difficult moments like stepping away from people and places that hinder and hurt you. And as you search tirelessly for love and belonging in people and places you wish reflected the rainbows in your life, you'll eventually find those who live bravely and hold the same identities. I'll skip a paragraph and end with a life full of rainbows and smiles is tangible, and even God made covenants with them. Neighborhoods will feel like Disneyland. Friends will become family, and you'll find music, books, clothes, and content that represent you. You'll eventually stop hiding all these things that make you genuinely happy and begin to share them. And someday you'll buy pretty girls flowers and tell them that they're gorgeous. You'll also allow yourself to lean in, hold their gaze, and hold their hand down the street. Even now, I hope you allow yourself to get giddy and not shy away from your blushing smiles. You'll feel peace one day. The endless nights, drives, sleepless train rides will cease, and you'll find love and a best friend in a beautiful girl who sees all of you and will hold your heart and brings you rest and becomes your home. And this is when you finally know what it's like to begin well.
Dang it. So cute. Wait, she's in love?
Yes, very much so.
Point her out. Oh my god, that's so sweet. There's so many moments in your letter to your younger self that I was like, oh my god, that's good. There's like a line in there about rainbows and how even God makes, hey. Can you read that line for us one more time?
Yeah, absolutely. Forgive me. The line was, a life full of rainbows and smiles is tangible. Even God made covenants with them.
Oh, snaps. Yes. Oh my god. Okay, so one thing that strikes me about your letter to your younger self is this renegotiating your understanding of what it means to be like a Christian girl. Mm-hmm. Can I ask you, as you're writing your letter to your younger self and that sort of content emerging from your brain and onto the page, can you give us a little bit more context as to how you're living your life now, negotiating Christianity with your lived experience these days?
Ooh, I love that. So, and I can't wait to hear how you all got into your writing headspace. But for me, at the time, right, it was a year ago. Mm-hmm. And thank you again for having me part of this. I'm so excited and nervous at the same time. It's like Dustin's making. Thank you. Dustin's making my Tumblr dreams come true. So a year ago, I was in nursing school, and to hype myself up, to make me feel good about myself, I started writing letters to myself, like, "Hey, you got it today. Don't mess up. People are gonna tell you mean things, but you're okay." So when he asked if he can be part of this, I was like, "Oh my gosh, yes!" And I had no idea what to write about. So I went back to those letters, and I was just like, this comes so easily. I'm already writing letters to myself. so this will be easy. But with that came like the recollection of like, oh yeah, the hard parts about coming out. For me, and I don't know about anybody else in the audience, but for me, I grew up very Christian. I come from a non-denominational Christian family, and for us, it's teaching more so not religion, but relationship. And in my family, it's like, but you can be queer because you follow God, right? And I was like, yeah, And so for many years, like, be so dedicated to the church. I had so many roles in the church, but at the same time, I'm sitting in a church that's like, oh, but we don't like queer people. We can't have them here. They don't exist. If you're Christian and you're queer, you can't have both. And so for a lot of the times, I was just like, well, then what am I doing here? I was like, I'm pretty sure I at least hope there's more people like me who are sitting in like church, like even though like the people that are serving your church, like you don't exist. But I'm teaching your children to be great Christian kids and have great morals. But what might see, there's a verse in the Bible that talks about how there's no fear in love. And for me, that just like stuck so close to my heart, because a lot of my life, like I read in the passage, is kind of like walking through life with my fists up. Like someone's gonna say something mean to me, but it's okay. Like if I know I'm loved, then there's no fear in that. So every day it's always like, here's a part of the Bible. Like I want you to like make this make sense in your queer world. And I know there's so much gray area, and I know there's so much conversation, but for me, I was like, the part where I talk about praying with my hands open, at the time it was like, okay, God, like, if I'm not queer, you can take it from me. My hands are open. Whatever comes in, whatever falls out, it's valid. But for me, it's kind of like, for me, he talks to me and tells me, like, I wouldn't have grown up if it weren't for having both challenges. Like, for me, I exist. I know there's more like me, and it's not a pick and choose. It's a, hey, I'm a whole person, and I made you the way that you are.
Amen. Come on. Preach. Preach. All right, let's give Jess another round of applause. Chris, you want to introduce yourself and then read what you've written in the book?
So, hi, my name is Francis, and first of all, I want to say thank you to Dustin for just allowing a vessel, a space for us authors to really write about our experiences. Growing up, for me, growing up, I used to, like you, I love the library and I love reading, and I never really found authors that really talked about experiences of, brown and black voices, and it just felt really empowering to really hear about just the queer API or the queer Filipino community, and just allowing us to talk about just safely about our trauma, and about healing, and about just really transformative love and transformative healing, and just kind of this emotional humility. And I just want to say thank you so much for allowing this possibility. So my name is Francis, and I'm a psychotherapist and oncology social worker. And I just feel so privileged to be here. I'm a little bit shy, so I apologize, but I'm just so privileged to be here and to talk about just really my writings. I'm actually going to just read from one letter, like that's something, yeah. And it's a little bit slightly of a trigger warning, so I do apologize. It's going to talk about sexual trauma. So I do apologize. Not apologize, but I just want to set the warning tone for that. Fuck, Francis. It is true that rape will break you into so many fucking pieces. It will not destroy you. It will trigger every fucking wound that you have tried to cover and hide, but it will force you to heal in ways because it's ripped you open. There'll be so many fucking loss, so much grief, so much pain, but there will still be healing. Sit in the anger, sit in the humility, sit in the pain. Don't push it away, but don't let the temporary feelings make you make permanent decisions. You will hurt people, but you will help people. You are human. Read that again. You are human. There will continue to be days in which you feel like you go back, and you are 5 or 19 or 29 again. But remember that sorrow, grief, and reflection have given you so much grace. You deserve healthy love. Soak in that healthy love. You are not your trauma. You are not your mom and her trauma. Make your boundaries, find your beauty, forgive yourself and self-soothe yourself so you don't find your demons in the places that are supposed to be healing. You don't need to beg for love because you are love in all its rawness and ugliness and healing glory. Sit with it.
Good.
Oh. So one thing that I guess I want to thank you for being able to write about such hard things, because when this project was initially conceptualized, I was like, we're going to call it With Love. It's going to be so cute. People are going to write inspiring things to their younger selves. And I think in that initial moment of like thinking about what this project could be, it was not part of my expectations that we would get such human experiences, such robust, diverse human experiences that tell all of the amazing, magical, beautiful stories that are also, on the other hand, traumatic, hurtful, but still healing in a way. There's so much to the human experience, and I want to thank you, Francis, for sharing your lived experience as part of this project. Having it be such a vulnerable piece, can you speak a little bit about what your mindset was in submitting the letter? Was that hard for you? Can you talk a little bit more about how you came to the decision that you wanted to write this and submit it?
You know, I look at, shame is very powerful. I think when, being a queer person, I know shame very well. And I think when we think of shame, it can really make us feel really ashamed or really not, it can make us be performative, it can make us feel really in survival mode. And I think with writing or with being authentic, right, it allows us to really face our demons and face who we are. And I think especially for men, there's a lot of men who struggle with mental health issues among them. And I think was really being able to deal with like depression or anxiety or suicidal thoughts, and also dealing with trauma. I know especially for the Filipino community, the Philippine American community, when we talk about depression or anxiety, our elders will say, pray with it, or they'll ignore you, or they'll say, God will make it better. But in reality, we really have to challenge our elders and challenge ourselves to really talk to each other and really hold space for each other, because there's a lot of secrets our families tell. And I think there's such a danger in secrets, because it doesn't allow us to really face our problems held on, and it doesn't really allow us to really face healing and face truth. And I think that has been the most challenging thing, for me and a lot of families. And I think just being able to just like not be ashamed. Like, why should I be ashamed of something that happened to me? Why should I blame myself for something that happened to me? And we look at things like domestic violence or sexual abuse, and a lot of our family members or people we know go through that. And why should they carry the blame and the stigma if we should really work on the perpetrator or the person who does it? So I think it's really about really acknowledging that. And why should I let the pain of my trauma or the pain of disapproval of others stop me from finding joy? And I think that for me has been the most revolutionary thing, because I think about that and how it's helped me, and also this concept of intergenerational trauma. Because I think a lot of Filipino Americans and Filipinos have intergenerational trauma. I think in terms of just really, from a macro level, immigration is a trauma itself, racism is a trauma itself, right? Sexism, misogyny, transphobia, homophobia, but I think also keeping secrets is a trauma. So but the opposite trauma is connection. So being able to connect with yourself and your authentic self, and being able to, and it's okay to be ashamed. It's okay to have triggers. It's okay to dive deep into yourself, and it's okay to have bad days. Like I was sharing a conversation with, earlier, both with, Dustin and JP and my friend BJ, and then we talked about how the importance of authenticity and the importance of healing and the importance of not being ashamed. And even if we are ashamed, it's the fact that we're having the space and allowing ourselves to talk about what we've been through and not comparing, like all our experiences are valuable. All our experiences are meaningful, and to have the safety and space to hold for each other, especially when the world is on fire. I mean, we have a genocide happening in Palestine, we have a genocide happening in the Congo, right? We have our own stuff happening nationally here. So how do we take care of ourselves and how do we practice self-care?
Thank you so much for sharing, Francis. Let's give it up for Francis. And then so next contributing author is JP. JP, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and then read from your letter to yourself, please.
Sure.
Hey everybody, my name is JP. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm just sitting here thinking, how do I even follow the greatness that was Jessica and Francis? Oh my gosh. I feel like the baby of the group. I'm just kind of like the newbie. Like all of these experiences, they're validating. I've experienced them, and now I'm beginning to connect the dots together and being like, I'm normal after all. So anyways, but I'm so happy to be here. It's my first time in NorCal. San Francisco is so beautiful. Oh my gosh, and the people are so lovely. The energy and vibes are so great. And I mean, even I've just been here for 12 hours and I've seen so much culture and so much life and vibrancy. It's just, and I've got a running list going of all the things I'm gonna come back and do when I get another chance. But this is all thanks to Dustin. I can't give enough gratitude and thanks to Dustin. I can't believe I'm even sitting here doing this in front of him and you guys. I mean, this is crazy. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think there would be a platform like this, and that's thanks to Dustin Domingo. So thank you so much for this. This is unprecedented. Yes, I really see this as, wow. Just so much awareness and love and authenticity. I feel so seen. I feel like I don't have to hide anymore. I can love who I am. There's so much love in this book, and there's so many lessons I've learned, and I just get so choked up just reading all the stories, and and then every time I read, it goes deeper and deeper. There's so many revealing things and so many validating things too. And I also see this as sort of like a time capsule piece too, because one of my first thoughts on this was just thinking about how many people of so many different backgrounds and across the spectrums this will reach, and how much we'll learn from it and grow from it and be comforted and validated by it. So many things that I struggled with that felt so isolating, and I thought I was the only one, and I thought something was wrong with me and something was broken about me. How many people go through the same things? And so, I know we're looking at through a gay lens, but it's really a human experience, because I've actually had so many friends in all aspects of life and background come to me, and they're getting into this book and they're saying, wow, there's so much common ground and so much heart in it and so much to learn from. So how thankful we are to be able to do this. This is so raw and exposing for me, because there's so much in here that I shared, and I can't believe Dustin let me. That some things my family doesn't even know. I don't even think they know I wrote something in the book. Maybe they shouldn't. I don't know. But you know what? There were so many things, and so here's my first accident. I accidentally wrote a book within a book, so that's why I was so surprised that Dustin didn't make me edit down anything. And then when I looked at it in retrospect, I was like, I shouldn't have said some stuff. But you know what? Now looking back at it, and I still deal with that weird feeling. I'm like, no, get out there. This was I needed to process this, and the very things that I hold back and say, I shouldn't have said that, I shouldn't have written that, I shouldn't have said it like that. You know what? There's so many other people out there who are thinking and going through the same thing and holding back and holding in, and why not? Just because I'm reading so many things here, and even in other people's stories, that's gonna be so validating and empowering for so many other people. And maybe it just feels so insecure about it because it's so raw and there's such a vulnerability to it. But it's these deep things that are within us that needs to be brought up and shared with people, because there's much more in common than we may realize. So, well, as us gays would say, the library is now open. I'll just read some key points from mine that were really important to me. So I just wrote this to my 20-year-old self, because that was a big turning point in my life. And I said, dear 20-year-old JP, you'll barely be 2 decades old when you read this. Brace yourself for a hell of a ride. It's not for the faint of heart. You're going to lose and find yourself over and over again. And with each twist and turn, you won't be starting over, but you'll be starting from experience. One of the hardest lessons you're going to learn is letting go. Life will show you contrast, like the black and white keys of a piano. It's going to be a constant balance of the good, the bad, and as a boyfriend once put it, the dramatic. The piano will become your first major attraction, and over time, your constant companion. Your spirit will grow with every win and loss. Each taste of heartbreak will feel like dying over and over again. There will be periods of your life filled with intense grief, depression, hopelessness, and crippling anxiety. It'll feel like there's no seeing or living beyond it. In time, you realize that you have no choice but to accept it and make peace with it. You learn to sit with it and befriend it. For so long, you will not be okay. And you wonder if you ever will be again. Oh my God, let's just get emotional. I'm just starting. I'm here to tell you to hang on. Hang on tightly. You will be more than okay. You're going to make a new life for yourself at 22, 28, and even into your 30s. You'll visit faraway places and reach highs that numb the pain of your past. You'll crash to lows that rob you of your will to live. All of it becomes part of your journey. You'll never fully understand its destination, and you'll mostly travel alone with no compass. Despite the many bumps in the road, keep riding the waves. I need you to remain determined and emerge on the other side, where peace, acceptance, and happiness wait to greet you with open arms. As children, we accept the reality that's handed to us. You accept your given American name. You don't question why someone is Asian, or why your parents only mark white in those little boxes. For context, I'm of mixed heritage, so I'm half Filipino and half white. My background, my father's Irish. So I really struggled with a huge identity crisis growing up, and still kind of do to this day, so that's the context. You accept what you are based on what you're told, but you also understand that part of you is not. Mom talks on the phone in a language you don't speak. You pick up a few phrases, but this aspect of you largely remains a mystery. You're given short answers and redirected when questioning them. You want to feel included, but you feel left out instead. Feeling left out was only a byproduct of what was quietly done for your best interest. If you were going to be successful in America, then you had to look like one, speak and write like one, and have a name like one. Dealing with this becomes harder as you get older. You'll resent yourself and become angry as to why you lack a sense of identity. You'll continually feel alienated from your heritage, like a club you're not welcomed into. You aren't brown enough to be Filipino, and you're not white enough to be white non-Hispanic. Not to mention that awful acne all over your face. And oh yeah, you'll be physically and emotionally attracted to men. Ugh.
That's right, bud.
Looking in the mirror will make you confused. You don't even know who's looking back at you. That'll all change though when you start a new life and a new love in Los Angeles, California. It'll be the beginning of a long road back to yourself. And one day you'll finally love yourself enough to just be you. Speaking of a new life, make sure to pack an extra pair of shoes in your duffel bag. At 22 years old, you'll make one of the biggest moves of your life, and at a time when you least expect it. And I just wanted to share some really hard pills at the end of my story that I had to swallow to learn and move forward in life. Accept people where they are. Stop trying to change people. Change how you deal with them, whether it's friends, colleagues, partners, or even your parents. The people that are meant to stay in your life will stay. When things have run their course, allow it to go. Stop controlling situations and outcomes. This will be your ultimate undoing. You did the best you could with what you knew at the time, and you do it all over again for the ones you love. But know when it's time to let go. Don't rely on others to make you happy. Make yourself happy. Healing will never be linear, and establish boundaries to protect your peace. Be gentle on days that feel harder than others. Okay, so today was a shit show. So what? It is what it is. Tomorrow is a new day and always will be. It's okay to not be okay once in a while. And use this time to get to know yourself again. You are deserving of all that you dream and desire. You have yet to meet all the people who will love and celebrate you for who you are, just the way you are. Put yourself first again. Take responsibility for yourself and watch a new level unlock in this game. And what lessons have you learned from it all? Acknowledge and follow the synchronicities you've been seeing. Don't chase, but instead attract what you want to become by being it now. And when you're ready, go out there and conquer. Life begins at the end of your comfort zone. The life you want lies just beyond all of your fears and insecurities. Cherish love in its present moment. Reciprocate and never take it for granted. You never know when it can be taken from you. And it was in the blink of an eye. If there's one thing you want people to know, it's that selfless acts of love know no bounds.
Yeah.
Being gay does not preclude one from experiencing love. The notion that you are not loved or worthy of love because you are gay is nothing more than a paradigm. Your heart's capacity to love is actually limitless in the eyes of the divine. We are all equally capable of giving and receiving it, and you're not some lesser of a human being for deeply loving a person of the same sex. Love is a frequency, not a condition. It would never discriminate or turn its back on you. Don't let the world harden your heart because it hurts you. Love also teaches you very hard lessons, because that's the only way for you to grow and to understand how to love better. Know your boundaries, but always remember to lead with love. Know that I am with you as you continue forward and face the unknown. Trust the process. You're exactly where you're meant to be. You are never late. You're never lacking. You're always right on time. Strike the first notes of your new song and let each cadence resolve with hope and determination. Life is not what happens to you, but what happens for you. How do you respond to it? Love yourself again. No one can do that better than you. And no matter what, don't ever give up. All the chips will fall into place thereafter, and you'll see. Your code is still unwritten. Now go get them checked.
Thank you.